A very good morning to all. Uh, Today we are here to discussing about the, the apparatus, which is the or the equipment which is used for keeping the bees. Those were like hives, the movable frame hive. Actually, for the commercial apiculture farm that requires the equipment for bee rearing. So there will be a different types of bear rearing apparatus. Traditional farming is confined to collection of honey from forest areas in a crude method. After discovering the importance and nutritive values of the honey, man has started investing uh, their time and investing their ideology for uh, constructing the various equipments to accommodate the good number of honeybees and providing the environment, good environment, favorable environment for the honeybees for rearing and for the production of the high quality of honey. So all the equipment that are required, those were like uh, uh, movable frame hives and nucleus beehive and mating hive and a hive stand with a bowl and along with these we also have the uh, depending upon the bees types and depending upon the bees mm, characters and bees activities, there will be a different types of dimensions for the hives. So in general, the mellifera, which is named like Langsthorpe hive, and Serena, uh, which is like the hive A and hive B type. For mellifera, it is a well seasoned wood of kale, tune, and teak or rubber uh, made good quality one for the beehives. There will be a wood that is having the strong smell that will not be used for making or making the equipments for keeping the honeybees. So these dimensions of different types of beehives that have been used in India, like Langstroth type and 10 frames type, and generally the super chamber, which is used for keeping the hives, and a 10 into uh, and these type of chambers we can use. And the other thing is the hive accessories, the like a queen excluded, a queen which is excluded, that can be placed between the broad chamber and the honey chamber to prevent the queen that is entering and laying in the honey chamber. The size of the holes in the excluder is designed so that the queen can be that cannot be passed through the workers, and this queen gate, uh, a queen gate which is made up of by the aluminium. It will be like a entrance of for the beehive to prevent the queen flying out under the conditions, like until a queen bee has become accustomed to new hive, and during the swarming and the absconding, and after transferring a colony to a movable frame, uh, frame height, the follow like that following the swarming, and this queen gate which is used to this do not use a queen gate if there is a virgin queen in the colony, as it will prevent her from going out on a mating flight. So there will be a apparatus equipment called pollen trap. A pollen trap is a piece of equipment for collecting the pollen pellets from the workers' bees that returning to the hive. There are many different types of designs, that ways of positioning for trapping, but the principal way is the principle of keeping the pollen trap is always same. A screen or the grid which is placed at the entrance of the hive, so that the bees must pass through the through it while entering. As the bees go through the grid, the pollen pellets are dislodged from the. It is hindering to the legs, no. So whichever the pollen grains are lodged into the honeybee's legs, that will be dislodged and fall into a collecting box that is presented the below the tray. So the size of the hole is the grid is a crucial factor, especially as the pellets must be dislodged without hindering the bees. Um, a typical screen that would have that would be like 5 millimeters in hardware mesh, 3 by 16 inch means 5 millimeter in diameter, which is having the perforated sheet. The collecting tray is covered with the fine mesh screen, not allow bee inside. Then the feeder, a jar or the frame feeder that can be used to feed the bees during the periods when wild food is unavailable, means insufficient and inaccessible. So, for example, during the winter and rainy season, a jar feeder is made up of by making small holes in the lid of a plastic jar with a heated needle. So the jar is filled with sugar syrup and inverted over the central hole of the inner cover of broad chamber to feed the colony. Frame feeder is made up of two parallel pieces of wood, and which is made up of by the plywood with a gap between, and should be same size as a broad frame. The frame feeder is filled with sugar syrup and placed upside down in the broad chamber. The bees feed on the solution sugar syrup coming out through the holes which is made in the lid. So the comb foundation, this is the major important one. The prepared comb, the foundation sheets that is made up of by the beeswax with a raised pattern of cell outline that is used to maximize the profit in the modern beekeeping. Comb foundation for Apis mellifera. Apis mellifera is designed to fit the Langstroth, that we already discussed in the just now we discussed Langstroth hive broad frames, and that can be cut to fit the super frame. The bees build cells on both sides of the foundation for laying the eggs or storing the honey. So the comb foundation that saves the bee time, because here making the comb itself is a laborious process, so that here we are saving the time and the energy in building the new combs, which increases the honey yield, obviously, because the honeybees follow a present pattern for building the combs are straight and regular and easier to handle. It is only possible to use the honey extractor if the comb is built on comb foundation. So here a comb foundation press is made up of the sand, cement, the cemented one into the wooden frame. So the upper and lower surfaces are imprinted deeply with a comb cell pattern. That is melted wax is poured on one side and the frame closed. The solidified sheath that can be pulled off from cement base and that has the raised pattern of cells on both sides. The comb foundation that can be made by using the iron rollers with an imprinted uh, cell based pattern. So the plain wax sheet is rolled between the rollers with the print a cell based pattern on both sides of the sheet. So the colony inspection has to maintain, there will be equipment called a smoker, bee veil, gloves, hive tool, and bee brushes, wooden or bamboo wax. Here the colony inspection maintenance equipments like a smoker is used to smoke the honeybees, subdue them when opening a beehive for inspection or honey harvesting. It is a well-known mechanism. Even in the traditional method also, if a farmer wanted to collect the honey, so they will fire the uh, leaves or they will fire the and they will generate the smoke for making the honeybees like silent, means less aggressive. So they will burn the material and they will create the smoke. And yes, sacking and rotten wood and rags and dried leaves, all those are the materials. By using that, they will create the smoke. A few puffs of the smoke in the entrance and the central hole of the inner cover at the top of the opened hive are usually enough to calm, making the calm of the bees. So the BY is used to protect the face and head from bee stings while handling the bees. So this is the equipment which the person who is going inside the bee, inside the nets of the bee. So it can be made up of by wide brimmed hat using the black net and the cloth. The black net which provides the good visibility for inspecting the colony. A BY is important for good colony management. And gloves, as usual, everyone knowing that gloves are used to protect the hands from the bee stings and to keep the bees from crawling up inside the sleeves. They should be think like enough to prevent the stings reaching the skin, but thin enough for the beekeeper to feel through. They are usually made up of the soft leather and may have canvas or cotton uh, for forearm coverings and ventilation on the forearm. Sometimes the entire glove is made up of canvas and cotton, but the leather is more sting resistant. Gloves that are useful for beginners to help them develop the confidence in handling the honeybees. Hive tool, which is used to pray the apart from the frames, from the broad or super chamber, brood or super chamber, are to separate the frames glued to each other with propolis or the wax. Using the tool to pull out the frames while inspecting the colony or during the honey investing that does not disturb the honeybees. So a hive tool is especially important for hives with Apis mellifera as they collect the propolis and use it to seal hive, the cracks and gaps in between the frames and the hive body. The other thing is bee brushes. There are two types of brushes which is available used in the beekeeping. One is a soft brush and other one is rough brush. A soft brush which is used to remove the honeybees from the frame, and a rough brush is needed for cleaning the bottom broad and inner cover. The wooden bamboo swat or wooden one or a bamboo swat. A fly swat is used to keep the bee predators such as wasps and hornets that are trying to catch bees by flying near the hive entrance around the beehive. These were the colony inspection materials. So the next one is honey and wax processing equipment. Honey extractor, which is essential for modern honey beekeeping, which is used to extract the honey without destroying the comb. This helps to increase the honey yielding at the empty chambers that can be reused in the super chamber. They do not, because bees do not have spend the time building new combs. That is what we use this type of honey extractors. Sometimes it is made up of by the stainless steel because this gives the best quality honey. So the next one is knife. A sharp long knife is needed to uncap the sealed honeycombs and to cut off the old combs for collecting the honey. And honey strainer. Once the honey is harvested, may contain all the sort of impurities such as honeybees' wings, legs, combs, and wax. So to avoid all such matters, to make the honey into pure, we have to pour through a stainless steel stainer or the cloth to remove all the just said contaminated. So to remove all those contaminants, we use the honey strainer. And the wax melter, we have the wax melter which is needed for melting the bee wax. That can be maybe electrical or solar powered. So this is like a very cheap and easy way for melting the wax, which does not affect the wax quality or the smell. So hot water can be used for melting the processing the wax. So the swarming and migration and bee management accessories like just we already discussed about queen cage and a carrying cage, a swarm bag, and a queen cell protector. So finally, yes, a movable hive that has the two types of chambers, which is used for the production of the good honey. the super chamber, which is only added during the honey flow season. Usually we can see very uncommon in Hindu Himalayan region. So yes, all these are the equipments that we can handle the honey. So then our next topic is harvesting and processing of honey. Here, how to harvest and process the honey and how to transport them means here, as just we discussed about honey keeping equipment, as like that, depending upon the demand of the honey. Yes, there are different types of modern methods for collecting the honey, like water bath method and honey staining through the cloth, and the bulk processing methods we have, like industrial uh, for using in industrial processes, like in a large quantity of the honey, we use the bulk processing method. Here, the collected honey is passed through or flow through a series of sieves of various sizes. The sieves that are arranged in a concentric form, the finest mesh that is being on the outside and corrodes on the inside, so that the semi-refined honey is heated up to 45 degrees to 50 degrees centigrade in a sump tank and then closed by the gravity to the seals, usually that is referred to as the strainer, into a settling tank and is left there for at least 3 days. So the scum collector on the top of the strained honey that collects and removes, and the honey is packed. Here we have the processing and pressing method. Honey is forced through the teased, and comb is pressing by using the honey presses. Yes, this is done. Uh, Usually, this is happened in case of traditional methods, and honey blending will have different characteristics. Like in order to bring uniformity, different honeys have been blended. This involves mixing the honeys during the processing so that the final product becomes homogeneous, have the same physical and chemical properties. So the honey is harvesting and transported of honey that should follow some procedures, like maintaining its original character. Therefore, the honey of the final product is in good. After harvesting, the frames of the honeycombs should not stay exposed to the sun for longer periods. That cause high temperatures can lead to the increased hydroxymethyl perfurol content in the honey, reduce the content of the main enzymes in the honey. As we know, the main enzymes presented in the honey is invertase, glucose oxidase, and diastase. All these were so. If we will not keep the honey in the border temperatures, like not very low, 40, just 20 to 40 degrees centigrade or 45 degrees centigrade. Therefore, the endangering the honey quality is very less. If we will keep the honey in the high temperatures, definitely there will be a chance of releasing or increasing of HMF, like hydroxymethyl perfurol. It is very dangerous for consuming. Many methods are available to separate the bees from their honeycombs. So in order to maintain the quality and in order to avoid the contamination, the honeycombs that should not be directly placed on the ground, uh, means on the bare soil. The vehicle which is used for transporting the suppers containing the honeycombs to the to for extracting room, that should be prepared in the previous day as subjected to a hygiene process. It is necessary that the vehicle did not recently transport any toxic materials that might have left some amount of the toxic residues, or otherwise has the strong odor, or yes, definitely it will damages the quality of the honey. So yes, if there is a crude method of honey extraction. After identifying the honeycomb, the persons wear good clothes covering the face and total body. Then the smoke that area to disappear, disperse the honeybees. Some of them may die due to the heavy smoke, then climb to the branch or use a bamboo stick to reach the honeycomb, then detach the honeycomb and collect it in a big vessel, and then squeeze the honey through the indigenous methods. um, has may have different types of drawbacks. It is still, yes, still it is persisted. If an extracting machine is not available, honey out of the frame that can be drawn with a spoon, hold the frame the same way as you would if you were cutting the wax caps off with a knife. In the modern method of apiculture, the honeybees are reared in movable artificial hives. This was designed and invented by the Langstroth in 1951. In the framed hive, the first step of extraction process for breaking or removal of all the caps that can be done by using a automated uncap machine or with a manually operated uncapping knife. After uncapping the frames that are placed in the honey extractor with the spins, the frames to the drain. Most of the honey by through the centrifugal forces. The crystallized honey that left on the frames after extraction or honey that is not capped over and therefore unripe, that is usually placed back into the colonies for the bees to clean up as it can be harvested. The extraction process is technically carried inside a special room or honey house that can warm the honey, since hot honey will not flow faster. In the year of 1838, Johann Johann Diesen, a Polish Roman Catholic priest, and he is the one who devised the first practical movable foam beehive for allowing the manipulation of individual honeycombs without destroying the structure of the hive. In this machine, the flow hive and that can be considered to just another level of separation between bees and man. Here it is the honey processing way that removes all the wax and any other foreign materials from the honey. This is what these are the methods or mechanical modern methods for flow hive method and honey processing method, and transport of apiary to the extraction rooms and how to remove the bees from the supper. And yes, we have this type of indigenous methods of honey extraction. Yes, there are different alteration methods for honey extraction and how to use the water bath of honey extraction. And yes, there are the apparatus which is used to extract the honey. Those were like the bulk and pressing methods. Even spoon is also a simple method for uh, using for collecting the or extracting the honey. After all, we have to discuss about the bee diseases. Yeah, even bees also suffer with the different types of diseases as like human bodies, not like a human body, any living material, any living thing definitely got caught by the diseases. As like that, honeybees are not exceptional for diseases. Especially, we can consider all those diseases like enemies, like pests and parasites. We have protozoans, we have bacteria, and we have the fungi and some other viral relations and other diseases. So these diseases are caused by all these pathogens. These pathogens may attack larval stage, at the pupal stage, and at adult stage. Some of them feed on a wax, which is most important to build the hive. In other words, it is attacking the larval stages by destroying the brood comb. Honeybees are susceptible to many chemicals used for controlling or control of agricultural pests and diseases. Many of them are known to their toxic effects to honeybees. Since honeybees fly longer distances to collect the flora or floral nectar and the pollen grains, yes, there will be a chance of contamination with insecticides that are sprayed in the fields and sprayed by the farmers. Effect of carbamate that is last for 2 days with reaches the hive along with the pollen that get distributed through the colony. Organophosphates and other insecticides that are also known to kill the honeybee, uh, the clusters in the treated areas, the quick active pesticides that may deprive the hive of uh, drooping them in the field before they can return from the field. So, what are the bee diseases like which is developed through protozoan protozoa? Here, the nosema disease. This nosema disease is caused by uh, Microsporidium, Nosema apis, and Nosema serena. This Microsporidium that invades the intestinal tract of the adult bees and causes nosema disease, and also called as nosemosis. It affects the adult bee during the cold and foggy and rainy weather. This infection is also associated with black queen, black queen cell virus. So nosema disease is generally called as, and it is one of the most destructive disease of adult bees that affecting the workers, queens, drones alike. And seriously, that is affected worker bees as unable to fly and may crawl about the hive entrance or the stand trembling on the top of the frames, resulting into heavy mortality. The bees that appear to age physiologically, their lifespan is much shortened, and their hypopharyngeal glands, those were like deteriorate. The result is rapid dwindling of colony strength. The other important possibilities are abnormally high rates of winter losses. The queen supersedures in climates with pronounced long periods of flight restrictions, no flight opportunities even for a day. The infection easily reaches to severe stage that visibly affects the strength of the colony. Less obvious infection levels in other climates often go unaffected. The damage which is caused by the nosema disease should be judged by its effect or on the individual colony alone, as collectively it can cause a greater loss in apiary productivity. It is normally a problem when the bees cannot leave the hive to eliminate the waste. When the bees are unable to avoid the developing the dysentery. Nosema apis, these are the spores infested the bees and with the food and germinates into the midgut. After the penetration into the gut and gut wall, the cells multiply forming new spores. The infected new gut cells that can be defeated, the nutrition of the bees is impaired, particularly protein metabolism. Hypopharyngeal region or hypopharyngeal glands are infected nurse bees to produce the royal jelly, which is feed on honeybee brood. Yes, it affects a high portion of eggs laid by queen of a infected colony may fail to produce mature larvae. This nosema effects on young infected nurse bees. These brood rearing and turn to guard and foraging duties usually undertaken by the older bees. The life expectancy of infected bees are definitely reduced by the activity of nosema. In the spring and summer, the infected bees live half as long as non-infected bees. The infected queens cease egg laying and die within a few weeks. And the infected pupa are resisted to infection. An increasing of dysentery in adult bees, although nosema is not the prime cause of the dysentery. What are the symptoms? You can see in nosema infected bees are there is no symptoms or none that are specific for this disease. Many of so-called symptoms attributed to the nosema disease apply to other diseases or conditions of adult bees. Here the examination of the adult bees using a light microscopy is the only reliable method for diagnosing the presence of spores of nosema. The infected colonies that can lose adult bees sometimes at least alarming rate. So infected bees often die from the hive. A few sick or dead bees may be found near the hive entrance. The term which is springe dwelling or dwindle is often used to describe this condition. So yes, definitely it should not be confused with the normal weakening of colonies caused by the natural dying of old and wintered bees in early spring. The sick or corralling bees outside the hive entrance, and the dead bees on the ground, and the excreta due to with dysentery on hive components may be associated with the nosema infection, but may equally be caused by other diseases and abnormal conditions. What are the preventive methods and the controlling treatment is yes, it is necessary for keeping the healthy queen separately from the nosema diseased queens. Otherwise, it will be critical for both the queens for egg laying. It reduces the possibility uh, induce her superuse. She may also become the major cause of the spreading the disease within the colony. And the microscopic inspection of feces makes it possible to verify the presence or absence of the disease in the queen. Not only the queen, but also other bees also get have to separated from the colony for unfortunately there is no reliable field diagnosis symptoms with this disease. That is what we have to do all these prevention methods for avoiding the spreading of spores within the colonies. And beekeepers should also ensure that their colonies and the queens come from the disease-free stock. Hive equipment that is suspected to being contaminated by the Nosema api spores should be thoroughly decontamination, preferably by heating method and fumigation. The best prevention is to change the combs once every 2 years during normal wax processing. The Nosema spores are killed. The other thing is like a heat treatment. Infected equipment is maintained at 49 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. Ensure that hot air passes through all the stacked combs during the entire period of the treatment. The temperature must carefully regulated because heat at levels higher than specific, yes, definitely it will melt the wax. So be conscious while you are doing the heat treatment. So the fumigation, a pad of cotton or any other absorbent material that is soaked with 80% of acetic acid that is placed over the top bars of the comb in each hive. The hive bodies are stacked together. The entrance is closed. All the cracks are sealed, and the stacks are placed in an open shed for about a week. After this period, the hives are open and the pads of acetic acid are removed. The combs must be allowed to dry for 48 hours in the air. So, for ridding them from the acetic acid residues so that they can be used again. The spores in the food that can be killed. Therefore, the food combs have to be centrifugated before decontamination. The food should not be used anymore for the bees. So, what are the management practices we have, like maintaining the colonies with clean, with good eggs? Obviously, colonies prepared by the winter should have a good population of young bees. We always ensure the colonies have adequate supply of high protein pollen in autumn. That this definitely helpful to ensure the good population of the young bees. So bacterial diseases like American foul brood, the causative agent is Histolysis infestiosa, perniciosa, larvae APM, Pestis americana, larvae APM. So, yes, this is the disease, contagious and the pathogenic bacterium that can remain dormant for like as much as more than 50 years. So generally we called it as a American fouled brood, and when the beekeepers in the temperature and some subtropical region ground, the place generally regarded like America. So in tropical Asia, where sunlight is abundantly and the temperature are relatively high throughout the year, the disease seldom causes severe damage to beekeeping operations. This disease is contagious and pathogenic bacterium can remain dormant for about 50 years. Here the spores are germinated in the gut of larvae, and the vegetative bacteria that begin to grow taking nourishment from the larvae. So the spores will germinate uh, in the 3-day old larvae. All the initial stages of the AFB infection, isolated cap cells from each brood has not emerged that can be seen on the comb. So there will be a test called a stretch test for contamination of the disease. So it is the simplest way for determining whether AFB caused death of the brood is the stretch test. A small stick or the match or the toothpick is inserted into the body of the decayed larvae, and then gently and slowly withdraw. If the disease is presented, the death larvae will adhere to the tip of the stick, stretching for up to 25 centimeters before breaking the snapping back into somewhat elastic way. This symptom is called as a roofing that confirms like American cold brood disease is there, but it can be observed in decaying the brood only. Yes, there are prevention and controlling methods treatment for AFB. As with European foul brood, research that have been conducted using the shook swarm method to control the AFB. The advantage being that chemicals are not used in several countries where apiculture includes larger commercial operations. The frequent efficient inspection services are particularly advanced, and a search and destroy strategy which is adopted in an attempt to minimize the damage to apiaries caused by this serious honeybee disease. So as just we discussed here, the other causative agent called uh, European foul brood. So this disease was reported in UK in the year of 1885 in Apis mellifera, and in India in the year of 1970 from the Maharashtra. The disease is caused by non-spore forming bacterium called Melissococcus plutonis. The disease affects the larvae of all the castes of the honeybees. So pathogen that infects the midgut of bee larvae. So EFB, like uh, Putrefactio polybacteria larvae apium and Pestis europea larvae apium. Those were considered like less serious than American foul blood. So, which is not a like a plutonis, which is not a spore forming bacterium, but bacterial cells that can survive for several months on wax foundation. The range of distribution of European foul brood disease is not confined to Europe alone, and the disease is found in all the continents where Apis mellifera colonies are kept. Apis serena colonies are also subjected to EFB. The damage that is inflicted on honeybee colonies by disease is different types. So, what are the symptoms? Here we can see is yes, honeybee larvae that is killed by the EFB are younger than those killed by the AFB. So the disease larvae die when they are 4 to 5 days old on the coil stage. The disease of the larvae changes as it decays from the shiny white to the pale yellow, and then it becomes like a brown. When dry, the scales of the larvae that killed by the EFB, in contrast to the AFB scales that do not adhere to the cell walls, and that can be removed from the yeast. The texture of the scales is the rubbery rather than the brittle. As with AFB, a sore odor can be detected from the decayed larvae. The clinical picture and the odor can vary depending upon the kind of other bacteria is also involving. So here the other bacteria like Bacillus alvae and Streptococcus faecalis and Achromobacter uridice. Another symptoms and characteristics of EFB is that effects on the larvae that die before their cells are capped. The sick larvae appear somewhat displaced in the cells, and the symptoms included dead and dying larvae, which can appear curled upwards, brown or yellow in color, that melted or deflated with tracheal tubes, more apparent or dried out and becomes like a rubbery. So European foul brood is often considered a stress disease. It is very dangerous only if the colony is already under stress for any other reason. So the healthy colony that can usually suffer or that sorry, the healthy colony that can usually survive even after EFB disease. So what are the prevention methods? Yes, the chemical treatment oxytetracycline hydrochloride that may control the outbreak of the disease. But honey from treated colony shows chemical residues. So the shook swarm technique of bee husbandry that can be effectively control the disease with the advantage of avoiding the use of chemicals. The prophylactic treatments that are not recommended, they lead to resistant bacteria. The choice of EFB control methods depending upon the strength of the infection, like how many brood cells and combs are infected. So if the infection is low, it is often sufficient to stimulate the hygiene behavior of the bees. Either they are placed at a good forage site, they are fed with honey or syrup. In case of severe infection, removing the most infected brood combs is effective, and replace the infected combs with the empty, fresh, and sterilized combs. Since the bees' hygiene behavior, it is also genetically determined. Replacement of queen is also effective, and requeening can strengthen the colony by giving it a better egg-laying queen, thus increase the resistance to the disease and interrupting the ongoing brood cycle, giving the house bees enough time to remove infected larvae from the hive. And isolation of disease colonies definitely recommended for its control. When coming to the fungal disease, chalk brood, in Asia, that is including India, chalk brood is rarely, it is a serious honeybee disease. The causative agent is, as its name implies, it affects honeybee brood. This fungal disease that is infects the gut of the larvae. The fungus competes with the larvae of food, ultimately causing it to starve. It affects honeybee brood. This fungus only forms spores during the sexual reproduction. Infection by spores of the fungus is usually observed in larvae, that is 3 to 4 days old. The spores that are observed either via food or the body surface, they cause mummification of the deceased larvae. So the fungus then goes on to consume the rest of the larvae body, causing it appears like white and chalky. Initially, the dead larvae that swell the size of the cell and are covered with the whitish mycelia of fungus. And subsequently, the dead larvae mummification and hardening that shrink and appear look like a chalk. The color of the dead larvae that the stage of growth of the mycelia, first white, then gray, and broods dies and rise out within their cells. In such conditions, combs are shaken. The mummified larvae make a rattling sound. In the laboratory, the fungus that can be identified by its morphology. When coming to the prevention, we have to increase the ventilation. And the other one is stone brood, which is caused by the fungi aspergillus. So the stone brood aspergillosis larvae apium is a fungal disease that is caused by the Aspergillus fumigatus and Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus niger. It causes the mummification of the brood of the honeybee colony. As just we discussed about chalk brood, it forms mummification. So the fungi that are soil inhabitants, that is what it produces like stone-like appearance around the worker bees. So the other viral diseases, honeybees are no exceptions for viral infections. Sac brood, which is caused by the flavus virus, and Cripaviridae, and Dystroviridae. It is nothing but acute bee paralysis virus, cloud wing virus, and sac brood virus, and Eclaviridae deformed wing disease, deformed wing virus is the causative agent for the wing deformities and other body malfunctioning or malformations that typically seen in honeybee colonies, and Secoviridae, tobacco ring spot disease, and lake Sinai virus, and other diseases like dysentery. We already discussed about this dysentery, and chilled brood, which is not actually a disease, but that can be resulting of missed treatment of honeybees by the beekeeper. So because of that, we can see the chilled brood. So colony collapse disorder. It is poorly understood phenomena in which worker bees from beehive or western honey bee colony abruptly disappear. So the colony collapse disease was originally discovered in Florida by David Heckenberg in western honey bees colony in the late 2006. So yes, after all, honeybees are not exceptional for any diseases, and the enemies, those were like pests, parasites, bacteria, fungi, viruses. So all these. So with this, I'm going to completing today's class. Thank you all.